These are the interviews from Chat City on Preston FM. Don't forget, our show is live weekdays from 10 till noon. Tune in and become part of our family.
And in the studio, my first guest on this Monday morning. It's lovely to welcome back into the studio Shelly Perry. And Shelly is from SEED, which is Support and Education for Eating Disorders. Very good morning to you. Nice to see you again.
Good morning, Hugh.
If I could just get you a little closer to the microphone, that should be perfect there so everybody can hear you. Lovely. For those who don't know, I know we've met a few times now, could you tell our listeners, for those maybe who've not heard you before, tell us a little about the organisation, when it began and exactly what you do?
Yeah, of course. We set up as a voluntary organisation in 2007 to provide support services and drop-in services for people who are struggling with eating disorders and their carers. Very quickly we mushroomed. We were in demand for services. We hadn't advertised, but people were almost coming out of the woodwork to receive support from us. So we've just grown since then, really, and we now have a treatment arm. We're now a registered charity. We're still a very small charity. We are based in Preston, but we serve Lancashire, and we have people travelling in from all over Lancashire because we are the only charity supporting people with eating disorders and their carers in Lancashire.
Right. And if we had to put a label on, I know in this country we're always labelling things, but if we had to put a label on to eating disorders, what would we call an eating disorder?
What would we call an eating disorder? I guess it's mental distress, if you can call it anything, or should I say it's emotional distress. So it's a symptom of emotional distress, and that symptom may express itself as an alcohol problem or a drug problem or a spending problem. It's much easier for people to develop an unhealthy relationship with food because we've all got an emotional relationship with food, whoever you are, and we've all got messages that we've grown up with around food, whether it's clear your plate because there's starving children in Africa, or be a good boy and eat all your veggies, and we reward our children with sweeties. There's a good boy. So we've all got emotional relationship with food, and then on the back of that, we all celebrate events in the UK, but in various different cultures, we celebrate events through food. So we've got what we call a food script. And an emotional relationship with food, and that can then be developed, and our identity, who we are, how we express ourselves, can become distorted around food, and whether we control that or not. And then our identity, our sense of self-worth, our sense of self-esteem, becomes a part of that. So it's very complex, as you can see.
Yeah, and I would imagine that over the years things have got worse because of fast food. I mean, there's so much fast food available now. And I mean, when you go into a fast food restaurant or whatever, you don't really check on what you're eating, so you're not really aware of the fat content or the calories, etc. So I would imagine maybe over the years things have got worse because of fast food being so available 24/7.
Yeah, I guess a combination of fast foods, and then the juxtaposition of that is that we are massively under pressure to appear in a certain way, to be high flying in our career, to be perfectionists, to look a certain way, and we're told through the media what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And messages such as a woman eating a very slim and attractive woman eating an ice cream on an advert is quite a conflicting message. And I think in society now there are so many conflicting messages that people are confused about what's okay and what's not okay.
So, Shelley, is a lot of the work that you do through education?
It is, yeah. Yeah, we do deliver to schools, colleges, universities, with regards to training staff around eating disorders and how to recognise and support people with eating disorders within their environment. But also we offer to students self-esteem and body image workshops. So those are in quite interactive workshops. We try and make them as fun as possible, but it's about trying to enhance somebody's self-esteem, somebody's sense of identity, and looking at the words in particular that we use towards each other and our self-talk, because quite often we're quite derogatory in the words that we use in our internal voice. So we might tell ourselves, "Oh, I'm rubbish, I'm not good enough." And those are the sort of messages that we need to change about ourselves. And you played a song earlier, and you'd been talking this morning. I was just hearing about self-love and self-appreciation, and that's a lot of the education we work on, really, in order to prevent eating disorders. How to love, understand, appreciate yourself.
And from the work alongside or contact with the medical profession, do you think the medical profession these days are more astute in dealing with people who have eating disorders?
I think there's certainly a raised awareness and an improvement in understanding around eating disorders, particularly through GPs. However, GPs are still not referring on to services or picking people up in time, and part of that problem is that there aren't any services for GPs to refer on to. So sometimes the criteria for referring on to a service might be, for example, a body mass index of 15, which is incredibly low. A healthy body mass index is 21, but in order to get a referral to services, some services are saying that it's to be 15. But so what are GPs supposed to do with the people that are very unwell but just haven't got to that ridiculous emaciated state yet? So I think there's an awareness, but I think GPs don't know what to do with people, so people still aren't getting the support they need.
So do you get referrals now from GPs and from the medical fraternity, people who need support and help? We
do. We get a lot of referrals from GPs via telephone and by letter. Unfortunately, the NHS aren't funding into us at the moment, so GPs are trying to refer in, but we have to refer them back and say, well, unfortunately, at the moment, unless people are paying privately to come through to our treatment service, we can only offer them support groups, drop-in services, which are free to access. Because, of course, our clinical team are very expert in what they do, and they need paying. And so that money's got to come from somewhere. So people need to pay on a private basis to come through to our treatment service at the moment, which, as you can imagine, as a charity, that's not where we want to be at all.
Yes.
Where we really want to be is providing free services at a point of need, which is why we run the support groups and drop-in services, so that people have always got something to come along to, and we will support people on their journey to accessing treatment and signposting people if they can't come through to us. I am hoping that that in the future the NHS will fund people to come through to breathe through our treatment services. There is a tender just coming out at the moment, so we're hoping to apply for that. Again, because we're such a small charity, and we haven't had the funding over the years, then we don't have the infrastructure yet to service such a tender. So we're hoping that we will be able to find a partner who might have the infrastructure. So a community partner, somebody who perhaps delivers similar services to us but have the infrastructure, so that we can go out and deliver the services, and the other organisation will be our infrastructure organisation.
Right. And you've got quite a few events coming up. I mean, one of them, it's Eating Disorder Awareness Week. and I know you've got an event. Is it at Preston College?
It is, yeah, and it's Eating Disorders Awareness Week all this week. So we're running the campaign Sock It to Eating Disorders all week, and wearing our very colourful and elaborate socks. So that people will say, why are you wearing those very interesting socks? And we will be able to say, because we're raising awareness for eating disorders in this coming week. We are over in Blackburn on Wednesday, delivering to a team of professionals, raising awareness and delivering some training around eating disorders, where services are and how to manage eating disorders. And then on Friday up at Preston's College, we're delivering a living library event, which is a first, where certainly that we've done on such a huge scale.
Right.
A lot of our ex-clients are coming in and talking about what it was like to have an eating disorder. Some of their carers as well are coming in. What has it been like to be a carer for somebody for an eating disorder? And right through from anorexia to binge eating disorder to compulsive eating. So to give a real insight into the different eating disorders. Well, people tend to think of anorexia when they think of eating disorders. Yes. Actually, only 10% of people with an eating disorder have got anorexia. So you can imagine there's all sorts going on. The others just aren't as visible. And then in the afternoon, we have a workshop, 2-hour workshop to dance and health and social care students, again, about what are eating disorders and why do people get eating disorders. And then, of course, we've got the Sock It campaign, where we'll be wandering around the college and talking to people about eating disorders and the work that we do over at Seed. And we've got a rolling DVD going on throughout the college all week this week about some of the insights of eating disorders.
So education, really. And I would imagine that the training with professionals is very important also.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, one of the remits of Seed is to educate more professionals so that there's some understanding, there's more awareness, so that when people are coming into contact with people with eating disorders, there's more compassion, there's more empathy, there's less stigma. And people are more likely to get referrals to the most appropriate support agencies, but also professionals such as GPs and nurses, etc., will know how to speak to somebody with an eating disorder and they'll know how to treat them. It's imperative.
Shelly, can you tell our listeners, is there a website where people can find out more, or anybody who can help with donations? Where's the best place for them to have a look?
Yeah, we've got our Seed website, which is www.lancashireseed.btik, that's BTIK.com. And on Twitter, if you follow us on Twitter, which is Seed Lancashire, you'll notice that we've got the Sock It for Eating Disorders campaign going on, and you can donate through the BT My Donate on there for that campaign this week in particular.
Okay, can I thank you for coming in this morning, and I'm sure I shall be seeing you in the not too distant future, and good luck with the funding, good luck with the campaign. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks Hughie.
You're listening to the Chat City interviews on 103.2 Preston FM.